Hi guys and welcome to another video here on the European Gaming League channel. Second one I've recorded today, but this one will be going up on Friday, not on Thursday. I'm trying to schedule things because I'm a busy boy, but today we're going to actually discuss the rule set as a whole. I've already done videos on specialist score streaks, that sort of thing, and a specific one on control as well, but today we've got a man over the pond, Lando, coming in to talk with me about the rule set. Because there's a lot to talk about and I can't do it all by myself. Lando, how are you doing, my guy?
I'm doing good, buddy. But like you said, there is a ton to talk about. No pun intended, of course, because that happens to be your name.
Every time.
It's just something I do. It's just random puns. That's all my commentary has ever been composed of. But yeah, man, I'm excited to talk about this stuff.
I mean, there's so much to talk about. So let's delve in. Specialists first and foremost seems to be one of the biggest crutches in the community so far, mostly sort of orientated around Ajax and Talk, and a little bit about Firebreak as well, because there's a couple of little things in there that are quite overpowered, Lando.
Yeah, like I totally understand everyone's, I don't want to say hatred, but like they're targets when it comes in certain specialists, especially with Ajax. Everyone's been talking about where's the counters for the ballistic shield, where are the changes to to torque, etc. with the razor wire, etc. Like there's a lot of little things that have been coming in over time, and I get those aspects.
Yeah.
But with the patch that comes out along with the rule set, to me, whenever the rule sets are made, whenever they sit down, the CWL admins, they sit down with developers. I'm sure they sit down and talk with people who have information on when these patches are coming. So when everyone was freaking out saying, oh my gosh, like why are they leaving Ajax? Why are they leaving Torque? Probably because they had conversations and new patches were coming. So I think this patch is great though overall. And I get the rule set, options. But I also understand people's frustrations at times because things aren't as orderly as we would like.
No, absolutely not. And I think like before we get into this, there's so many people in the competitive scene, me being one of them, where don't get me wrong, it's great to see all these new features come in and them implemented, but I remember the days of the purist rule set, when we were running Deserto rules back in like Black Ops 1, that sort of thing. Don't get me wrong, we didn't have nearly the amount of support that we have now then. And because of all the support we have, then we sort of have to adhere to the rules, don't we? That's the thing. And there's so much support does come from the developer, it does come from Activision, Treyarch, all the guys at CWL. It's fantastic. But it does mean that you have to sort of put up with the rules a little bit in some aspects.
Right.
And I think a lot of people just expect it to be exactly what we want every single year. There is give and take in this, isn't there?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people assume that whenever you are coming up with a rule set, it's just a matter of having everything on a paper and just marking it off, which isn't at all the case, right? Whenever you have the opportunity, because it is an opportunity to work alongside the developer on something that is, a passion project. It's a matter of saying, hey, like we want to take this thing out of your game. And that's not an easy conversation to have, right? You have to come through with evidence, and that evidence usually comes from competitive gameplay. Like they reference back to streams, and that's why a lot of the time they say, professionals, I understand both sides in this argument, but they say, hey guys, use the things that you think are overpowered, because that's the way that we can prove to developers that these things aren't useful and shouldn't be in the game. Now, am I saying that they should do that all year? Absolutely not. But I think to a point, when you're working alongside the developer, that's not something that every esport has the opportunity to do. And whenever you have a chance to change the way the game actually plays for everyone, I think that's a huge opportunity, and one that you need to take, in a very delicate manner, which I feel like is what they're trying to do for this year, because they realize how amazing of an opportunity Black Ops 4 is. Everyone's going crazy about how amazing the game is, and I'm right there with them.
I think that's probably one of the reasons where you've seen quite a big uproar, if you like, because I think everyone sees the potential, don't they?
Yeah,
they look at this game as a core game. It is sensational. It's a very, very good game. The weapons are fairly balanced, or getting there anyway.
Right.
The maps themselves are nice to look at. The gunplay is nice. It's an entertaining game to watch. It has all the components to be one of the biggest years ever, but we just want to see the rule set maybe trimmed down a little bit, or at least I think one of the biggest things is counterpicks to something. Like Ajax being the main one, Talk being another, those sort of things. One thing that does sort of combat that, and actually we'll touch on Ajax because the sorry, the nerf came in against him, so he can take explosive damage now, which is a big one. Personally, for me, the easiest fix would be just to make that shield breakable, and then that solves the problem, so to speak. Because I mean, you team shot that for a couple of seconds and it's gone. But I think one of the things is there's not enough counters. We've talked about Torque a little bit, and he hasn't been used that much in scrims, as you can imagine why. But at the same time, Helion Salvo is going to be coming in soon, and that could be a bit of a counter to Torque. Do you think it's good enough as a counter to Torque? Because Torque actually got a buff in the latest patch as well.
I think you earn it more, right?
Yeah,
it's
you
like
earn
a higher
it more,
earn rate.
And there's nothing changed with the Razorwire. It was just the shield, and it has more hit points.
That's to me like one where it's a matter of, okay, like, come on, guys. Like, everything else was so great when I was looking down this list and I saw that, and I was like, okay, like maybe, love to see a few more tweaks. But yeah, man, I think Torque at this time, I would love to see a few more counters, like you mentioned. Like, I know people have been talking about saying, well, the Annihilator now can come through and start to destroy a lot more things. Or I think whenever you have certain weapons, especially, like I said, I think the ability to tear through something, or if you have enough team shots like that, takes down the shield over a certain amount of time, and just give it like a certain amount of hit points. Like, I'm sure it probably has, a certain amount of health. You tone that down, because if you have 3 people who are trying to rush through a certain lane, maybe act as if that razor wire or as if that barricade, is only just a matter of a stepping stone rather than like a permanent blockade. Just it's a matter of a delay rather than like a permanent lane blockage. Because that's the biggest thing that I've found throughout a lot of these games is that you're making your way through a certain portion of the map where there are 3 lanes. That's at a point where it's in a cutoff, or it's in inside you, or like a major portion of the map where you can no longer flow through it, and it totally changes up the team strategy, especially if you're playing solo. So I get that argument.
I think Torque, I think they've tried to concentrate on keeping the public player happy with that. The fact that the items do damage, so you're talking the Razorwire chunks you, the shield chunks you. I think what would have been enough is a slow, to be honest with you. I think in that situation, then it becomes viable, because at least it's slowing people down. It's a utility to slow people down, but at the same time, at least people can walk through it and not die. I mean, it does 2 different things. It puts damage down and it slows you down. So I think if it did one or the other, then fair enough.
Because I've seen some people be like, well, we can walk through Razor Wire. I'm like, yeah, I have like 10 HP, and hopefully I can manage to put my stim in before the guy who's probably camping in a window comes around and starts to shoot me. So
exactly.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah. Hopefully we can see some changes to him. I think the only other one was the radiation core. I can't remember. A lot of them been calling it a heat wave. That is definitely an issue for me. I think X put it down on the document that they tweeted out yesterday, that it's literally as powerful as some of the main specialists. It is that good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's by far the, I guess it's not the ability, but the equipment, essentially the best specialist equipment probably in the game, especially when it comes to, hardpoint, the ability to hide behind something and do constant damage. And let's also talk about, how long it takes for people to regen health after you've been,
because it burns.
Burns. Like it takes so long. I forget how long it takes, but there's been times where I've been sitting probably for 10, 15, 20 seconds, and you just can't heal and you're so low. But yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that's something that was something that I was hoping I would look at this list and see. But along with that, along with the I guess you could say not the ideal changes for Torque, and then also stuns not at all being involved. That was probably my big 3 things that I was hoping would be in, but unfortunately weren't yet.
Okay, so let's just go through some of the things that they did remove, because I don't want to keep this too negative, I suppose.
Right.
We can talk about the removing the sensor dart and tac deploy, which isn't actually restricted. Tac deploy isn't restricted in Control, but realistically, there's a few other things that have been removed. LMGs removed, shotguns removed, Nomad taken out, thank God. Oh my God, imagine. Don't get me wrong, it's not completely rubbish or anything like that. That's not what we're saying. I think overall I was quite happy with the rule set, if anything. But there's
you don't want to see the dog at a 1v3, is that right?
Categorically no, I don't, because the thing is with a dog, you drop it in, you don't have to do anything.
No, you just sit there, right?
Yeah, that's the thing with the other specialist. At least with Torque, you've got to put it somewhere. At least with Ajax, you've got to at least aim your pistol while being completely invulnerable.
It's true.
At least the other ones you have to do something. But I'm going to move away from specialists. Let's talk game modes, because another one of the big things that a lot of people have sort of hummed and hawed about was Control. I like it. I'm firmly in the Control camp here, right?
Yeah.
I was watching the scrimmage between Reciprocity and Red last night, and there was times we were watching, I think it was on Seaside, and it literally got down to last round. It was like a 3 versus 3, no lives left sort of job, and it was sick to watch. It went down to like a 2 versus 1, and then they nearly pulled it off, and all the specialists were flying in. It was crazy. It was really good to watch though. But then I was saying, I was typing in Tommy's chat. I was like, oh, that was so good. That was so good. And then I've got players coming in saying, how was that so good? We've literally just headbutted each other for 25 minutes. And it's just literally glorified TDM. I don't know what your take is on it, but I said I'm still in the Control camp. I still like it.
Yeah, I would say I'm definitely in the Control camp, but I do understand a few aspects, because at least as far as like North American scrims that I have personally seen, I know there's been quite a few close games, around the entire, scrims that have been going on as of recent. What I've been noticing, though, in the teams that I've been watching is pretty much like a whitewashing. Like one team understands it, one team has no clue how to play it. A lot of the times on certain maps, it's like you rush a particular, area of the map. Like you rush A, you pretty much take that, and then you move over to B. Like I think that as of this moment, it's not perfect. I think there definitely can be quite a few tweaks that need to be made, but I definitely see the future of it. Like it's absolutely there. Like when you talk about that one moment where it was like the 1v1 or the 1v2 or whatever down to the last second, like that to me is the epitome of like what competitive Call of Duty is revolved around. Is like those very crucial moments where it's like, where is those guys at? Round 11 like type of atmosphere, which I think is great. But it's going to take a little while to get to that point where pros are happy by getting to that particular area as well. But I definitely see it though. I'm definitely still in the Control camp. I'm really happy to see that be involved in the game. But like I said, I think there are quite a few things that need to be done with it. And I'll be honest, it might be 2-3 months before we have it the way that we like it. Which is a negative, but
it's hard to,
great things do come with a cost. So.
Yeah, and another thing I wanted to point out about it is that, again, from watching scrims of Red and Reciprocity last night, 2 very, very good teams going up against each other. But by the way, Wuskins looks nasty this year. He looks so good.
Is that right?
Yeah, I don't want to read into scrims in online too much, but the guy looks insane. Either way, I think there was one point in Seaside. I think it might have been actually in this last round. The last round was really interesting. I think it was something to the point of, I think Reciprocity had defended really, really well and had pushed Red back, and I think it was like 16-10 lives left in Reciprocity's favor. And then Red suddenly just got 3 kills, got B, had a minute extra, and it goes down to the wire. Like, it looks as if you are set up, and one of the big issues that a lot of people had was one wave of kills, a defense team gets set up, and suddenly it's very easy for them to win. That doesn't seem to be the case. It seems to be a game mode that if you slip up for a second, you can really be punished. Like, kills get traded out, you then have to go back and spawn, the enemy can move up the map further. It's just one of those game modes that's going to come down to those little moments again. But let's talk about some changes we'd like to see. I've harped on about Control in my other video, which I'll link here as well, but the main thing for me at this moment in time is the 5th round. I think it needs to be fixed because at this moment in time, it just swaps and it's whatever order you're in. When you get the 5th round, it just goes back and forth between the 2 teams. There needs to be some sort of mechanic that makes it so a team who has an advantage or who did better in the previous 4 rounds gets the 5th round.
Yeah, I've always thought, at least as far as Search and Destroy is considered, much like how Counter-Strike works, is that it's an even system. So where when it goes to overtime, like you play a few more rounds, I'm not saying that Control is that. But I think that'd be something interesting to explore potentially, if not in Control, then maybe in Search and Destroy. But yeah, that the way the 5th round works is definitely a key that needs to be changed up quite a bit.
100%.
And especially for teams, right? Because I feel like in Control, that is probably, because I'm a big fan of the Specialist. Everyone knows that ever since like Black Ops 3, I was always like, yes, I love Specialists. I understand that they don't work the greatest, but I love the idea. I think in Black Ops 4, Specialists are phenomenal in certain aspects. And the way that team pushes are going to work and the way that you can combo Specialists as well is probably going to be the epitome of what Control is known for. And Hardpoint, it's kind of difficult to know certain points that are going around the map, but when it comes down to that Control, right, where there's like not a whole lot of lives left, you know that both squads probably have at least 8 Specialists overall together, and you just know these fights are about to go down. That to me is what's going to make not just commentating, but as well as spectating very, very intriguing, very exciting as well. it's going to be chaotic at times, but it's the amount of strategy that's going to be involved over time to me is what's really going to make it super exciting. But that's the difficulty to me as well, is like, how do we decide that 5th round, that, you know, big moment? Do you count, you know, lives down? Like, you know, how do we tweak the rules, etc.? But you know, I think they'll come with the system, but like you said, it's going to take a while.
One of my other issues, and I won't delve into the 5th round too much, as I've already talked about so much. I can't talk about it anymore, Lando. I literally did a full video on what we can do about this 5th round. But another thing that I was actually, again, I feel like I'm harping on about this, but I was chatting to Tom in his stream last night, and I said, one of the biggest issues for me, and I talked about this with Rab on one of his videos, is that, so typically, not on every map, defense seems to be the easiest to do or to win. So if you get defense first, you can build streaks. And then you have those streaks on your first attack, making the next team's defense harder to win. When you've just had the ease of the defense in the first round. And then I sort of suggested, I was like, well, why don't they wipe score streaks after every round? And then somebody said, okay, well, in CTF last year, you would have it at times where, you know, teams would have the easier side, and then when they go on the harder side. So Ardennes was typically the main one, wasn't it? Where you would have the easier side, and then the second side would be a lot easier because you managed to build up streaks because you captured so many flags, that sort of thing. It's similar sort of thing to first defense. And I was talking about that with Tom, and he said, okay, yeah, it is an issue, and you could fix score streaks. What do you do about specialists? You build specialists up on that first defense as well. So that's true. So I think
it gives you an advantage if you basically have first defense.
100%. If you have the easiest round the first time, you have an advantage in that map. 100%.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good point to bring up, because I remember in CTF, I didn't really think about it for the long time, especially last year. But I remember pros even talking about it and being like, yeah, this guy's basically camping in the back of Arden Forest, because when it comes to, you know, a future flag carry, they have 3 streaks to use. That's going to, you know, lead them to probably a capture, right? And I get the same thing, right, for control as well. That makes total sense to me as far as, you know, the size and whatnot. I've been seeing quite a few North American teams, at least, basically saying, hey, like, we're saving all of our specialists solely for offense because of how difficult it is to take defensive points. And essentially, when you are on offense as well, it's like, hey, you want to make the defense use their specialists. It's almost like trying to bait them out and saying, hey, we can capture this point, but if you were to use your specialist against us, you might be able to, you know, pull something off. But yeah, like I said, it's an unfortunate thing, and I totally understand the rants. And I really hope that is tweaked soon, because if not, it's going to be very hard to practice it, especially with like what we talked about, events coming up very soon as well. It's not going to be easy to quickly transfer strategies into what could be a future overtime settings change.
Yeah. I think we like you said before, we've got to accept that control is going to take some time to sort out. It's not like we can say to the devs, this is what you should do, and they fix it next week. You know, we know that things don't work like that. Not through any fault of their own. It's just things take time to change. And it's as simple as that. So hopefully it does get sorted before Vegas. If not, I still think we've got something really entertaining to watch. But I know some of the pros are probably going to whinge about it a little bit. They already are.